Thank you. The purpose of the public comment session is to give residents of Manchester the opportunity to address the board. All people wishing to speak must sign up with their name and address and topic prior to 7 p.m. Once called, they will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and any comments must be directed at the chair and conclude when their time is up. If the clerk calls their name and they are not present to speak, they will not be given a second opportunity. Any resident wishing to speak will come forward to the nearest microphone, clearly state their name and address when recognized, and give their comments.
Mackenzie Verdner, followed by Jessica Spillers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Alderman. My name is Mackenzie Verdenier. I live at 539 Silver Street. And after reading the Inklink and the Union Leader, I wanted to express my concerns for the school funding. I am a youth organizer with the Granite State Organizing Project, so I'm in the schools and I'm with high schoolers a lot, twice a week, and the stories they tell me are drastic and appalling. The kids are chewing on spoiled milk, the paint is falling off the walls in their schools, there's constant bushing issues. The kids are telling me that their books are literally falling apart in their hands. And from my understanding, the school board asked for about $13 million, and what was proposed is $2 million. And I understand that the schools are funded from different resources, but I just wish that the students were on the list of city priorities along with fire and police. In fact, I think that our students should be our top priority, considering that the smarter our kids are, the smarter our adults will be. And an investment in our schools will strengthen our communities. And I just really hope that the Board of Aldermen recognize that. Thank you.
Jessica Spillers, followed by Brittany Ping.
Hello, my name is Jessica Spillers. I live at 73 Jobin Drive in Manchester, and I am the school board rep for Ward 8. I'm here to talk about the school budget and to express my disdain and frustration with what's been proposed by our mayor. This is the same issue as what we had with phase 1 of the long-term facilities plan. Our mayor had plenty of opportunities to express concern, to ask questions, and he didn't. In fact, in the board meeting where we approved the superintendent's budget, he voted in favor. And then later he comes along and proposes a budget that cuts that same budget by $9.5 million. Just like with the land transfer, he says one thing and does another. $9.5 million is the cut. Magic math and circuitous explanation isn't going to change that. The $6.5 million that repeatedly gets brought into play was for school lunches. It wasn't a handout from the DOE because they had extra money lying around. That money had quite literally already been eaten in the year before. We need to stop including it in these discussions. I can't do a whole lot more as a school board member at this point, other than advocate and urge all of you to do the same. You're all one vote. And just because the mayor has proposed this budget doesn't mean that you have to agree to it. You can negotiate and fight on behalf of our students and our educators. The aldermen are the checks and balance on the mayor's power. The city and I expect you to do your job. Thank you.
Brittany Ping, followed by Rick Blaze.
Sorry, Matt. Oh, he's not even behind there. Good, he can't make faces at me. Thanks. Hi, my name is Brittany Ping. I live at 199 Putnam Street. I wear a lot of hats. I'm coming to you as a property manager. So I've been working in our affordable housing. I work with lots of people under the area median income. I have properties that are parts of those agreements where we agree to do that for a specific period of time. I'm super familiar with all of this fun stuff. And I know, Jay, I've talked to you time and time and time and time again. I've talked to this board time and time again. There is one thing that has decreased the affordability of our apartments over the past 4 years, and that was the property reassessments in 2021. In September of 2021, the first Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting after those assessor letters dropped, this board, which was not all of you, I do understand, was shocked. Crazy. How did my property value go up so much? Everyone's calling me, freaking out. So I'm here right now to tell you, if it looks like 4 years ago, right now what your house sales for the next 12 months are the basis for our assessments, our reassessment, which is a requirement every 5 years. Okay? So for the duplex that I own or occupy, that's going to be about $700,000. Now, I sold my multifamily home after I did not increase rents. After the reassessment, I owner occupied a 3-family for 7 years, and I had to sell it because I didn't increase my rents because I thought, I'm a good landlord. I don't need to do it. Well, guess what? I couldn't afford it anymore. Nobody on this board voted. It is not a thing that you guys have control over. It is the market, okay? 15.16% increase overnight. Your mortgage companies don't like that. Your insurance companies don't like that. I would love to speak to any of you in detail about what insurance companies are doing right now about rebuild cost on multifamily homes. My office is connected to a Queen Victorian. Insurance just came back and said that property is now worth $2 million. A 4-family on the west side. This is peak workforce housing, okay? This is what is coming down the line. So when you look at the mayor's budget and you say, oh my gosh, how dare you? How dare you is correct. That's not enough. We are going to suffer with these reassessments. Once again, we're going to see a shift from commercial to residential, and it is going to be unbearable. We have a chance to say enough is enough. And Jay, I know I've talked to you up, down, back, and sideways. This is a big deal.
30 seconds.
And you don't have to vote for it, but you need to be aware from it because your multifamilies are going for $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 for a 3-family. What is rent on that? $3,000 per unit. You don't vote on that. It's done by the market. It affects everything. Please, when you're looking at the budget, say, how is this going to affect our renters? And you have to start at 0 and walk yourself down. Thank you.
Rick Blaze, followed by Gavin Telfer.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Thank you for having me out again tonight. Tonight, I want to talk to you about taking a stance against the 2-year term we've talked about. I know it's been floating all over the place lately, but really looking at placing that question to the city, changing to the city's charter, for the voters can vote on this rather than the aldermen. This mindset of, we've always done it this way. You know, I run many businesses over my lifetime, and that's the kiss of death for anything. You know, there needs to be change, there needs to be innovation, and if you don't have it, it's going to kill our growth. Our city and our states have adopted 4-year terms in other areas, and you look at their downtowns are vitalized, they're clean, they're homeless-free, and it's a place you want to go to. And I think Manchester can get there very easily. Longer terms are going to allow you leaders to focus on real solutions rather than short-term politics, going from election cycle and whatnot. They provide a stability to tackle critical issues like downtown revitalization, housing, school projects, all the things that go into an election cycle, get stopped, picked up by a whole new board or a new mayor, and it's back to ground zero again for a lot of these projects going back and forth. So I think a 4-year term will be healthy for the city and the voters. Let's be honest, voters are tired of political gridlock, and I'm not blaming, all of you guys are doing a wonderful job, but in politics, you know, every one of you here, it's a cycle. You know, you get 2 years, you figure things out for a month or two, then you get to work, make some good decisions, then all of a sudden that year's coming up, that first year, you have to go into election mode, otherwise you're not going to get the funding and the seats you need. So to me, it only makes sense to give the voters the chance to vote on this and to look at the outcome, because what we've been doing hasn't been working as a city. You know, housing crisis, for the past 20 years we've known about. New Hampshire Housing Finance does a tremendous job of that. For over 20 years I've known their annual meeting, showing the problems down the road. This ain't a secret. This isn't something we didn't know 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. We knew it was coming. And those of you who know me have been talking about it for that long. Elm Street revitalization still remains unfinished. I mean, we are making inroads. Hey, it's cleaner now, it's a little bit better. But I walked here tonight and I'm looking at holes in the sidewalk on Elm Street. I mean, the Queen City. It's one thing if it's in my neighborhood and I trip and fall, but to trip and fall on Elm Street makes no sense.
30 seconds.
And so what I'm looking for is for you guys to vote in the positive to pass this so we can get a vote on it tonight to put this onto the next voting coming up in November so we can have that from going from 2 years to a 4-year term and let the voters vote on changing the charter to make that happen. So thank you very much, and I do appreciate all you guys do to make the city a better place. Thank you.
Gavin Telfer, followed by Rich Gerard.
Good evening. My name is Gavin Telfer. I live in Ward 3 at 98 Sagamore Street, and I am here to state that as a concerned Manchester resident and parent of children in the public schools, I reject the $9.5 million cut to the school district budget recently proposed by the mayor. Like many of my fellow citizens, I visited this building a number of times over the last few months to reiterate a common theme. Who we are as a city is reflected in the value that we place on education. We cannot be a great city if we do not value the education of our young people. The opportunity for kids to have a good education is an essential service. One of many essential services we should support? Certainly, but an essential service. These cuts will have a years-long negative impact on the quality of education and supports our students will receive. Make no mistake, our children will pay the price for these decisions. Mayor Rouet, I urge you to go back to the drawing board and reconsider the full amount approved by the Board of School Committee. Please listen to the 14 elected school board members that were voted in to be voices for our schools. You have a great opportunity not to view the support for our kids' education as one of ever-dwindling scarcity, but instead as a chance to provide an abundance of support to our children. Thank you.
Rich Gerard, followed by Glenn Ulett.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Richard Gerard, and I reside at 283 Orange Street. What is election mode? We heard about election mode. As somebody who's served in 2-year offices like you all have, I consider election mode being that time when we are most closely working with and speaking to our constituents. And I think it's probably a good idea in this city and in this state to have 2-year elections so that you can continue to always have to speak to your constituents in the event that, well, a course correction is needed. I think a comment made by Alderman Long on this question of whether or not the election scheme in Manchester should be changed illustrates my point. I've noticed throughout the years I've been here that votes are different when it's an election year, and that's not in the best interest of the city, in my opinion. Like this year is an election year, I'll notice that votes are going to be different. They would vote differently if it was not an election year, and I think that's an issue. Well, the question is, why would a member of this board, august as it is, vote any differently in an election year than it would in a non-election year? In fact, I think we could probably look back at tax cap override history and see that they tend to happen in the off years, right? It's because you don't want to face your constituents off a fresh vote on the budget 3 months before an election. So 2 years is about accountability, and while I appreciate the comments made by Mr. Blaze, who is a longtime friend and someone who's been active in this city for a long time doing good work, I don't see where 4-year terms are going to allow any greater traction for the things that need to happen here in this city. I'm actually agnostic on the question as to whether or not it should go to the ballot. Alderman Fajardo said that she thinks 2 years are important, but she's not going to stand in the way of the voters having their say. Well, if we're to follow that logic, there are a couple things I would like this board to consider to put on the ballot as well. One of them would be restoring partisan elections. I don't have time to present the research that I've done on this, but one thing that nonpartisan elections in this city have done is immensely strengthen incumbency. The number of incumbents running for reelection who are defeated in this city since nonpartisan elections went into effect. Last time I looked, there were about 240 races I evaluated. There were fewer than 5 incumbents that got knocked out of office. And that was from the time it went to nonpartisan to the 2015 election, I think.
30 seconds.
So that tells you about the power of incumbency in a nonpartisan system. People should know what party somebody stands with, whether you think it's right or wrong. It's a critical piece of voter information, and it allows the parties to rally their troops. The other thing I'd like to see this board put on the charter, on the ballot, is whether or not the Manchester School District should again be a department. A law was passed back in 2003 that enabled the city to do that after the voters said in a charter amendment they wanted the district to be a department.
3
But there was a
minutes.
legal issue with that, and I'll take my last few seconds here to read the one-sentence law that passed that I think you should use to put the question on the ballot, and that is, the City of Manchester, New Hampshire may incorporate the school district as a department of the city, and the mayor shall have control over the form and procedures for preparation and adoption of the school department budget. Imagine if this board actually, or the mayor even, had some oversight over the form and preparation of the school department budget. Music to my ears, folks. I served in that system. It worked pretty well.
Glenn Ulett, followed by Ryan Drohan.
Well, I'm Glenn Willett, and I live at 112 Auburn Street. I've been there almost 25 years, right here downtown. So the downtown definitely concerns me. The downtown is the center of our city. In the last 5 or so years, I've seen so much destruction in downtown. Today I've seen in the last few weeks, you are redoing the sidewalks. Well, they need to be done. But are we going to re-beautify the area that was destroyed at the at the park on both sides of the streets? We do have problems. We do have problems with people that commit crimes. But if we did a better job at lighting the street, this downtown here in Manchester is very dark compared to many other downtowns. Today, when I passed by the hotel across from Veterans Park, I noticed that all the lighting that was in there that made it so light in that area that it blocked that broken window. The window was sealed. You have less of a chance of having crime because when the police drive by, they can see right through the park. It's gone. Now, Your Honor, according to your new budget, you want to put lights in the streets, specifically on the trees, that would benefit our community and our businesses. It would look cleaner, brighter, and more like a downtown that has life. Why did we remove those? Because you're only going to have to put them back up. That costs money. Take away, put back. I hope that the lighting that you have here in front of the City Hall does not go away either. Food. The federal government is thinking of taking away $1 billion nationally for school lunch. We have a lot of that. We have a large amount of students that uses the free school lunch. When you do your budget, are you going to consider that? A student who does not eat
30 seconds.
is not very smart. And the last thing I want to say is that for the last 4 months, there have been blocks of streets that have no lights at all. The street right by Salvation Army, all the lights on that block have been closed for 4 months. It's time we turn them back on. We pay for those lights. Why does it take so much time? There are so many lights throughout the city that are not on. Please do something to fix that, to keep the city safe. Thank you.
Ryan Drohan, followed by Sue Corby.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Johan, Ward 7. During the February 6, 2024 BMA meeting, the board approved applying for the 12 firefighters grant. Joe Lavassa asked the fire chief to get this on record that the 12 firefighters would replace, through attrition retirement, pretty much a one-for-one by the end of the grant and not cost the city taxpayers any money. Why does the mayor's budget start allocating $200,000 a year? That is a complete about-face. If this is approved, that says to all the department heads, it's okay to say one thing to the public on record and then do an about-face, AKA lie. That shows the rotten corruption from the top down at City Hall.
Sue Corby, followed by Julie Turner.
Excuse me. Good evening. I am here once again to advocate for the schools, for a sound and fair budget for our schools. The budget you have presented, the cuts in that budget are just way too far for our schools. And I ask you and the rest of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, or the rest of the aldermen, to return to the drawing board and find a budget that adequately funds our schools. I know that there has been a lot of opposition to the long-term facilities plan, especially to rebuilding Beach Street School. But given that, we're not going to correct that by underfunding the schools now. Yes, bricks and mortar, many of you have said, don't make a school system. But you have to fund the teachers in the school system. You have to fund the books. You have to fund the programs that are needed. And that's going to be even more severe with the federal cuts that seem to be coming. So I think in the end, people will simply say, okay, you got your building, but you haven't improved anything. And the education still is not good because we're not funding that education within that building. This $9.5 million cut is way too much. And I think, you know, I'm not advocating to go over the tax cap. We have a tax cap budget, tax cap for a reason. I know it doesn't mean we have to spend up to it, but the school side will have the inflation costs that the rest of the city has. And that's what the tax cap is supposed to do, is to can keep the spending at an inflationary level, at least as I understand it. The residents of Manchester have voted on a school board in each ward, and that board has unanimously supported the long-term facilities plan and this current budget. If the taxpayers, if the people in this city don't like what the schools are doing, they can vote out the school board members in their district and say to them, your plans are far too expensive, and we'll vote somebody else in. That doesn't seem to be happening. The school board has functioned well together. I think it's well thought of, and it's doing a great job, and we need to continue to support the schools. I know it's a tough position for a mayor to be in, and I respect that, and I thank you for all you can do, and ask all of you to get back to the drawing board on this. Thank you.
Julie Turner, followed by Debbie Howe.
Good evening. I am here tonight, Julie Turner, 285 Race Street. I'm here tonight to comment on the recently revealed FY26 proposed budget. As a parent of 3 students in the Manchester School District and a taxpayer, I reject any cuts to the unanimously approved proposed Board of School Committee budget. This budget cut of $9.5 million will stymie the advances we are making in our schools. It is a critical time in our city to double down on our efforts to support our students, staff, teachers, administrators, nurses, bus drivers, and facilities. As the mayor stated just last year, a child's success is not solely determined by the confines of the classroom, but it's deeply impacted by the external forces that we can help address. I could not agree more. In order for Manchester to help our students succeed, we need the full appropriation so that we are not just simply educating our children, but are providing those essential services that our families depend on. This $9.5 million cut does in fact cross that red line and will negatively impact the long-term health of our district. Mr. Mayor, during your budget presentation, you mentioned that the Manchester residents deserve robust foundational components like police to answer calls, fire to respond quickly to emergencies, and DPW to keep our streets paved and trash collected. Are fully funded public schools not foundational components? I'd say so, but you did not add that to your list. You also mentioned in your proposal that it is important that our city employees receive market competitive pay that would fill vacancies and attract and retain employees. I could not agree more. Is the same not true for the Manchester Public Schools? Does a $9.5 million cut help us attract and retain the best teachers? Does it tell our teaching staff that things are looking good for the next round of contract negotiations? Does it tell potential new hires that our district wants to recruit and retain the best? No, it does not. If it has them dusting off their resumes and applying to surrounding towns. If Manchester truly is the hottest housing market in the U.S. and one of the best cities in which to live, then why wouldn't we fully invest in our public schools? Why would we give people any reason to pause and consider living in a surrounding town because we underinvested in our public schools? As the chair of the school board, what do you suggest we cut? Perhaps the savings can be found if we cut the $6.5 million from textbooks, supplies, and equipment, or maybe we stop paying for our city services to the tune of $9.7 million.
30 seconds.
Forgo paying our utilities and save $3.4 million. As you know, we cannot patch this huge hole using our expendable trusts. Those trusts are earmarked for explicit use, like healthcare and special education, and are to be used as one-time funds, not to pay out in salaries and benefits. Nor can those funds be used in upcoming teacher negotiations. Those are in case of extraordinary expenses, like a special education student who is added to our roster that has a need for a one-on-one nurse or paraprofessional, special transportation and equipment, or all of the above.
3 minutes.
I ask you tonight to please reconsider the devastating cut to our school district. When you give our Manchester students a tour of your office and tell them that the sky is the limit, I want them to know that you mean it.
Debbie Howe, followed by Bryce Cowu.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Howe, and I live at 390 Ray Street in Ward 1. I have 2 children that have gone to Manchester schools. I am beyond disappointed in the mayor's proposed budget, eliminating $9.5 million of funding for the school district. I urge you all to go back to the drawing board. The budget presented and approved unanimously by the school board, including the mayor, was tax cap compliant and allows the district to continue the important work improving student outcomes in our district. Last year's tax cap compliant proposed school district budget was cut by $4.2 million. To cut another $9 million this year is shortchanging our students over time, eliminating the tax cap revenue that the district so heavily relies upon. The students of our district deserve better than this. Thank you for your consideration.
Bryce Cowu, followed by Dan Mason.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Ruane Alderman. My name is Bryce Cowu, and I live in Ward 1. And there are a number of things to talk about, so I'll try to be brief. There is a proposal for you tonight that would extend the terms of alderman and the mayor. And right now, as you well know, you serve 2-year terms. Under the proposal, you would serve 4-year terms. I strongly advise against this. At the local level, 4 years is a really long time. Politicians need to be held accountable to voters. And right now, every 2 years, the voters have a chance to change course if they see fit, or to stay the course. But I think the people deserve to have a say every 2 years. And at the end of the day, increasing the length of your terms would take away the people's voice. Onto the budget. I didn't hear anything about the Manchester Animal Shelter in the mayor's budget address last Thursday. When the aldermen present their alternative budget, I hope they can take into account certain revenues that the mayor cannot consider in his initial budget proposal. I would really encourage the aldermen to consider adding a line item to support the Manchester Animal Shelter's great work. To be honest, it would be a win-win. People love puppies and kittens, and you'd get to go on record supporting puppies and kittens in an election year. I think we vote differently in election years, so we'll see if that's true. Last but not least, I wanted to talk about the school budget. In your budget proposal, Mayor Ruway, you said you were reducing the school board's tax cap compliant budget by a whopping $9.5 million. I noticed that in your address, you didn't specify why you chose to provide less funding for our schools than requested, nor did you specify which programs or line items you think are worth cutting in the school budget. So, Mayor Ruway, what activities, after-school activities or educational programs, do you want to cut? Are you expecting the school district to just figure it out based on what they had planned? Do you want them to figure it out on their own? You do serve on the school board, so hopefully you can have some ideas, bring them to the table, and take responsibility for this planning that is really important. And I agree, we have to balance things. But if you're going to try to balance things, instead of just looking at the top line and cutting and letting everyone else figure it out, I would say get your hands dirty, do the work. So maybe the answers will be in your budget book once it's released, but the last thing I'll say is this: to implement broad budget cuts without a detailed plan is it's fiscally conservative, but it's not fiscally responsible, in my opinion. So thanks for your time.
Dan Mason, followed by Chris Potter.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dan Mason. I live at 1053 South Beach Street. I come to you tonight as a homeowner of 18 years and a father of two sons, one seventh grader at Southside Middle School and a 4-year-old who will be going to Highland Golf Falls soon enough. The reason I come to you tonight is about the school budget. I would urge you to accept the school budget as proposed by the school committee. My seventh grader really enjoys his time at Southside, and he takes advantage of a lot of the extracurricular activities that the school offers, including band, track, soccer. And I know that when schools are not adequately funded, some of the first things to go are the extracurriculars that the students really enjoy and enhance their learning. And I would hate to see those things taken away from my son and the other students. The other issue I just want to bring up is about busing. To begin the school year, my seventh grader's bus time was 6:55 in the morning. After a couple months, some issues caused a change and consolidation of routes, and now he gets picked up at 6:25 in the morning. He's not the first student on the bus. So that means he's having to get up between, 5 and 5:30 in the morning just to get to school on time. And I would say that that is not already putting our students in the position to succeed at school, giving them enough time to sleep. So again, insufficient funding. I worry about busing getting even worse. So I would encourage you to accept the school committee's proposed budget and also to use your power as the mayor and board of aldermen of the state's largest city to encourage the state to provide more education funding for us. As we know, the funding comes from a variety of sources. Local funding comes from property taxes, and so that's, on the backs of all of us specifically. But funding from the state comes from a variety of sources, including the lottery, business taxes. And so, getting more money from the state would really help out the city and help out our students and make it better for all of us. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Chris Potter, followed by Christine Siebert.
Good evening. My name is Chris Potter, 470 Silver Street in Manchester. I also sit on the school board representing Ward 7. I want to share some good news about the district's success. Class sizes are down. Despite the 6:25 departure, transit is becoming more reliable. Our facilities are improving. We're providing attendance and behavior supports for our students. And as a result, Proficiency is up in reading and math. Graduation rates are up. At the same time, though, our costs are going up. We have COLAs the same as you do. Our SROs are 5% up. Utilities, supplies, insurance, all are up 3% or more. Salaries is where costs are really blowing up for us this year. That's in large part because we took over 40 nurses off the city side onto the school side. We also brought our transit in-house and behavior techs in-house. So even though that's making the salary line item go way up, we're actually saving money on those because they used to be contracted services. And we're looking for savings too. The transit saves a bunch of money. We did a staff reorg at the district level that's saving over $200,000. I want to say, if you proposed a 1.94% tax cap number, if I remember correctly. If you give us that 1.94%, we could make cuts that would make it work, and it wouldn't be pretty, but we could do it. It would mean it would mean deferring maintenance, so no new playgrounds, we're not repaving the parking lots. We could close vacant positions that have been sitting open, and we could end some of our COVID recovery programs. It wouldn't be good, but we can do it. If you actually cut the school district budget by $9.5 million, it's going to get a lot worse. You cut the easy stuff first. If you get to $9.5 million, it's going to be really painful. We're talking about layoffs. We're talking about buying out our most veteran teachers to get them to retire early.
30 seconds.
Extending the busing radius from 1.4 miles. Now if you live 1.6, 1.7, you have to walk. Cutting extracurriculars. And as a result, proficiency rates are going to go down, and don't look at us. Graduation rates are going to go down. This budget is not what's best for our students. This budget is politically expedient, but throws our kids under the bus.
3 minutes.
And I just hope that there's 8 of you here who support our kids.
Christine Siebert, followed by Ken Tassi.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Christine Seibert. I know most of you guys. I'm at the state representative for Ward 1. And I was just coming up here tonight. First, I wanted to kind of reiterate about the schools. We need to fully fund our schools. As a taxpayer who actually does not have children in the schools, I expect my tax money to go to fully fund our public schools so our children can get a good education. And also that we have oversight over it. There's a lot of other programs going forward in the state where there is literally no oversight on where my money goes. And that's a huge problem. And I'm not sure how that will reiterate or work for everybody politically on the doors come this summer, unless you just straight out lie about it. And then I also came out about the requested $750,000 tax break for the Brady Sullivan project. I just wanted to add in that, first of all, the units don't seem to be that affordable, and that's an incentive we should be leaving on the table for those particular projects. And then second of all, I would just like to say that we have other projects such as the infrastructure one in regards to the sewer, which needs to be done, by the way. That's something we do not need to apologize for because we are literally dumping crap into the river and it's backing up into people's homes, which is disgusting and it's unhealthy and not okay. But with those things on the table, companies such as that, which they do wonderful work, but anything that is, creating those projects adds more stress to the infrastructure over time. And so it's obvious that everyone's got to pay their fair share when it comes to that. And so it seems appropriate that at this time, that's not really a viable option. So thank you.
Ken Tassi.
My name is Ken Tassi, resident of Ward 6. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Three things I'd like to address, two very briefly. One is panhandling in our city. This is really out of my concern, I'm sure concern of others, not simply that people are panhandling or begging on corners in our city, but that the safety of those individuals, regardless of what brought them to that point in their lives. I sat at a red light recently at a busy intersection where a car had run over a stop sign across a median because someone was not looking, and all we need to have in the city is one of these individuals who are out there asking for money on street corners to have an encounter with an out-of-control vehicle during an ice storm or what have you. My second item is that I would like to just voice my support against the increase in the term period for aldermen. My third item is regarding the school budget. It has been mentioned tonight that it was quoted, someone quoted, I believe, those who had opposed the long-term facilities plan, saying that brick and mortar doesn't make a school system, so we need to fund the education. It was also mentioned, requested of this board to go back to the drawing board and revise that budget cut. It was also mentioned tonight that if you support our kids, that you should vote against this budget cut. And I would say to those people and to anyone that was on the school board during the vote for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the long-term facilities plan, and anyone who supported that initiative has relinquished their credibility in this argument. They certainly have the right to say what they want to say, to have the opinion and the views that they have, but 20%, moving 20% of Phase 1 would equate to $60 million.
30 seconds.
20% of the combined Phase 1 and Phase 2 would equate to, I believe, $200 million. Where could that money have been better spent if it had been thought out during the deliberations to vote the 14 people in the last school board who voted for both of those? So I support these cuts. We all want the kids to have everything that they need, but I think that they should go back to the drawing board and find another way to move some of the money that has been earmarked for those school projects. Even 10% is $100 million.
3 minutes.
Find another way to spend that money that benefits the kids and the teachers and improve the performance of our schools. Thank you.
That concludes our list of speakers, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to take all comments under advisement and further receive and file any written documentation?